Hello, everybody. Just give it 10 seconds or so for everyone to officially join. Great. Well, thank you all very much for joining our webinar today with maybe an overclaim of a title, maybe not, but talking about achieving your personal best through running. How running can help you achieve better mental health, happiness and performance at work and in life. And thank you very much to each of our guests for joining. Without further ado, I'll briefly introduce you all and then you can introduce yourselves. So firstly, first but least important, it's myself. So I'm James Hayhurst. I'm a partner at MD Communications and a keen runner, or have been for a while. And then also joining us, we have Odlum, who is head of financial crime at Clyde & Co. We have Ben Pochee, an ex-international athlete and the organizer of the Legal 5K. And we also have Ali Foster, who's very kindly joined us from the running brand ASICS. So firstly, thank you all for joining. Maybe I'll just ask you to give your own introduction. To start with you, Shay. Say hello to everyone.
Yes. Hi. Thank you so much for the opportunity to join this webinar. I really feel I'm with some greats here with Ali and Ben and you, James, in the running space. But I've been running for about 8 years. I actually started in my local running club's Couch to 5K program, which is a really good way to start your running journey. I kind of stopped running in 2018 and started again just when sometime during the pandemic. And that's probably where the well-being aspects, mental well-being aspects of running really came through for me and continues to be something that has kept me running.
Thank you. Thank you for joining. Ben, tell us a bit about you.
Well, thanks, James. Really great to be on the webinar. I appreciate the invitation. So yeah, I've been running for many years. I started at club athletics in about 1984, inspired by the LA Olympics and Seb Coe and Steve Ovett, for those who remember that far back. And yeah, I got into running and really enjoyed it at a club level and managed to get better and better and managed to represent my country, which for me was like the ultimate goal. And yeah, I had a great time. Went off to Loughborough University where I studied sports science, then realized I had to earn some money and found myself working in advertising for about 12 years. And it was at that point I started to realize that the gains really of running for me were, even though I was at the time, I was still trying to be this high performance runner, you really started to realize that actually my career was quite stressful at points, and some training and key sessions, it was quite obvious to me that they were massive kind of releases of stress, and I always felt so much better and calmer after I had done some of these key training sessions. And so that was quite a few years ago, and it was kind of a slow dawning on me that running obviously had benefits beyond trying to cross the line first or kind of physiological. So yeah, I then went on to create a company called LGN Wellbeing, and we provide corporate running clubs and we host corporate race events like the Legal 5K, and I've been doing that for 20 years almost now. And yeah, it's given my years, running now is far more operating in the space of making my head and my mind feel positive, and yeah, putting on events and seeing other people enjoy, you know, what I get out of running too, I think, which is big rush of endorphins and lots of smiling faces when they finished.
Thank you very much, and thank you for joining. And then Ali, yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Cool. Lovely to be a part of the webinar. My name's Ali. I've been running for as long as I can remember, really. I think, like a lot of people, I played sport growing up. Was very active and sporty. And as you get a bit older and you get more injured, and you realise that actually making time for team sports is quite challenging with work and life. Definitely kind of gravitated more and more towards running. I'm definitely by no means a top level runner, but do enjoy running. Currently training for the Rotterdam Marathon in a few weeks. So experiencing the ups and downs of illness, injury, and training for a marathon with a baby under the age of 1. So not always straightforward, but for me, as Ben was saying, it's more about, you know, the mental benefits and how that, how running gives you energy. It takes some energy to do it, but you get a lot back in return. And I think as from a career perspective, I've been fortunate enough to be able to combine my kind of personal passion of running with my career. I started out working in the UK on some of the UK's biggest mass participation running events, so kind of tens of thousands of runners, closed roads, large scale. So always on the marketing side of things. And about 3 to 4 years ago, I left the UK and moved to Amsterdam to pursue a role within ASICS, which many of you will probably know as the kind of one of the leading running brands in the space. And I've been working for ASICS in the brand marketing team for over 3 years, and I've been fortunate enough to work on some really great campaigns and really get and inspire more people to get into running. So yeah, really excited to be part of this and to talk to you guys a bit more about my journey, both professionally and personally, and pass on any words of wisdom that hopefully could be quite useful.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be lots of words of wisdom appreciated. Yeah, so currently, the reason we're doing this is we're arranging, with the help of Ben and all of you, a 5K event in Regent's Park on the 25th of April. We have, at the moment, about 45 firms and chambers already entered, so really good uptake so far. And I think on the webinar, we'll have a mix of people maybe who are just starting out running, or like Shay, maybe they used to run and then they've paused for a bit, or maybe they're keenos and they're looking forward to the glory when they cross the line first, and their firm is the fastest firm in the UK. So I want to cover a number of topics today and pull on each of your experiences. You've all touched a little bit on your running journeys. I wanted to sort of go a little bit more into that, maybe starting with you, Shay. Firstly, yeah, tell us a bit about your running journey. And then there was a couple of things we mentioned in the webinar title about how running can help mental health, happiness, and also performance. Obviously, you're a high-powered lawyer, and just be interested to get your reflections on what we have in the title, some of the benefits of running, how they've flowed through to you, what's kept you running, and what got you started, if that's okay.
Yes, I definitely rediscovered running during lockdown and the pandemic, when I started I think a lot of people fell into that trap of being at home and probably working far more than they really should. I started to do very, very late nights regularly, finishing 10:30, midnight, starting again at 7 a.m. And the days just flowed into one another. And it's funny, when you're in that situation, you don't realize that your body is under stress. And it took actually seeing the toll it had taken on me, on my mental and physical health, to do something about it. And running was really something I naturally reached out for, to get myself out of that space when I realized I was going down a path that really I needed to get off. And what running does for me, running gives me a space. Now, that space could be the space to think, to just let everything go. Because when you're running, the first thing that happens when you start to run is you realize your body starts to talk to you. Everything, lungs start to scream, legs start to, everything, you feel everything. And so there's no space to think about anything else until your body starts to get into that place where it adjusts, and then you get that magic time where you're just running and you're looking about and you could see nature and everything else. But running gives me that space, but it also can be a place where I can work out really complex problems. So sometimes just sitting about in front of the computer is not the place to do it. When I go out on a run, I actually, at some point in that run, I find the space to think of my problems in a very different way. And they could be work problems. I've worked out a lot of things on a very long run. I'm marathon training at the moment, so there's quite a lot of time to think about lots of different things. And I would say about running that it is something, it can be just one of these things in your toolbox to use to step away from the computer. It gives me time away from work that is not about work, to focus on myself and my mental health. And I think that's really important when you work in high pressure jobs. Most of us who are on LinkedIn at the moment can't help but see the stories that have been out in the last week about lawyers and toxic work cultures and the impact on mental well-being. It is so important to find that thing that works for you, that thing that you could put in your toolbox, whether it's running, whether it's yoga or something else, that helps you to step out of that stressful situation. And I think that's what running does for me. And that's why I encourage people to look at running, and the accessibility point as well is one that's important to me. So I think a lot of runners become very evangelical about running. It gets quite cultish because you just feel such good benefits that you want to share it with everybody else.
No, wonderful. There's some really good points you made that resonate very strongly with me. The one about thinking things out, it's so often I'll run and it's almost like something shakes loose, and this thing that I didn't even know I was thinking about, this really obvious answer to the problem, just drops out. So yeah, massively helpful. Just interested in maybe reflecting, maybe asking the same question to you, Ali, in terms of what you get from running. I know you have, we were just discussing before, you have a small person. Small people can be quite exhausting. So just interested in how it helps you sort of personally, and they're also really interested because people may not know what ASICS actually stands for. Just a bit about the mental health roots of the brand that you work for, if that's okay.
Yeah, well, first of all,
Yep.
Shay said, I fully agree with all of that. It's so well put. And I think for me that it's kind of a repeat of that message, really. But for different reasons, I'm not a high flying lawyer, work in marketing, so the challenges are a bit different. But still, try and balance, like a lot of people. It's a balance of being a good dad, being a good, being high performing well at work, wanting to see your friends, wanting to follow your football team. Life gets quite a lot. It's quite intense, and it can very easily get on top of you. And I think for me, running, whilst it is a time commitment, it's a physical commitment. You do have to put work in to get the benefits out. But for me, the benefits you get from a tenfold. You really, it gives me mental clarity, helps me see the wood through the trees. If I'm going through a period in time when my mental health isn't quite as good, it helps me really navigate my way through that. And I can definitely relate to the idea of having good ideas pop into my head when I'm running. It's absolutely some of the campaigns we've delivered and worked on within ASICS have popped into my head during a run, which I think is kind of quite a nice aspect to that as well. So I'm very fortunate to be able to run and to do that and to build that into my weekly schedule. Not everyone has the same luxuries, and it is a privilege to be able to do that. I do believe that, and it's also a privilege to work in this industry as well. As I said before, I used to work more on the event side, but I really wanted to challenge myself as a marketeer in the brand side. And I've now been working for ASICS for 3 years. And what I really love about working for ASICS is not just it's a big sports brand and they're one of the number one brand in running within Europe. It's that the brand stands for a lot more than just performance and running. And what we see in this industry is it can be quite intimidating. There is a lot of messaging around winning at all costs, performing faster times, new shoes with carbon plates that get you 10 times faster. And we definitely play a part in that. We create products that help people go fast. But ASICS is actually an acronym for Anima Sana and Corpore Sana, which is Latin for a sound mind and a sound body. And the company was founded in the late 1940s in Japan. And the founder of the company in post-World War II Japan, in a war-torn country, really strongly believed that movement had the power to uplift the spirits of the whole nation. And so he kind of put himself to task in building products and trainers and everything else to help facilitate that movement. And that kind of brand sentiment is absolutely central to everything we do as a brand today. You'll see it coming through in all of our marketing campaigns. We do very different marketing activities that really challenge the industry and challenge people's perceptions around mental health and the sport of running. We recently just did a campaign called "A Personal Best is Not a Time, It's a Feeling," where instead of kind of publishing times everywhere, we basically captured the uplifting feeling that people get through movement, and just spread a really inclusive message into the marketplace that we stand for something different. And yes, it has a business benefit that we're able to do that, but everybody who works for the company does genuinely believe that. And speaking to, people who run, everyone's evangelical about this. So yeah, proud to work for a company that kind of really kind of reinforces my view and vision of running as well.
Yeah, I've noticed that campaign has really stuck with me. It's one of the best I've seen for many years. And I think we've all reflected, maybe we're all slightly older than our personal best beating times of a while back. And I've started to really appreciate it's less about chasing the time and it's about the feeling. And the campaign resonates so well because you just feel so much better, even if you just get out for 20 minutes, you're glad that you have. No, so it's really nice work. Ben, can I just ask you about picking up on that, because you and I hail from a slightly different sector, from the advertising sector, a bit about why you set up LGN Running and the mental health benefits that you've seen flow through some of the sectors that you've worked in. I suppose this was the reason we wanted to put the race on in the legal sector, was there's so much benefit that can come from running. We wanted to inject some of that into this sector as well, not just keep it for the advertising people. So yeah, tell us a bit about your legacy in the ad world.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I think primarily it comes back to what Shay and Ali have just been talking about, really. I think there is an element of being evangelical about what you do and being fundamentally believing. I fundamentally believe that running, I think as Shay was saying, it's the accessibility. So if we were ever, if you're ever going to bring something that uses the cardiovascular, the aerobic components that I believe are some of these key elements physiologically that make us feel good up in our heads, running is that tool that if we're going to take it to a client and we've got a 45-minute window, we can actually do it. We could provide it to a group of up to 40 people, and you can provide a tangible session. So we don't just go for a run. LGN Wellbeing, the whole thing is about structured training. So you can have everyone of different abilities. You could have a complete beginner, you could have an advanced runner, just how we do at club athletics, really. We warm up as a group and then we do higher intensity work together. And, some people within 30 seconds will travel to 2 trees within a park, and some people will travel to 8 trees, and we all come back together. But I think, yeah, sorry, getting a bit detaily there, but the type of sessions, it's deliverable. So if you're ever trying to bring that cardiovascular component of fitness and training and well-being and all the routes that it then leads to in terms of kind of a mental space of positivity, running for me provided it. So that was, and the fun bit in the early days was, how would it work? Could it work? And would companies buy into it as part of their well-being package? And, and they did. And it was a success. When we are a small company, we don't purport to be a huge company, but I think the testament to our success has been where we've been introduced to a company and we have brought a running club where we provide a trainer, and once a week we go out and train. In some clients, we've been in place now for 10 years. So where we work, we stay because it's a very simple concept. We build a community because, as everyone who runs will probably know, you've got the solo running opportunities, but when you run in a group, it's like a whole nother level to what your running is, because you've got the social dynamic, you've got the chat, the banter, the pre-run banter, the during, and then the post. And obviously they're normally all very different because your mood states fluctuate depending on the chemical flow based on the lovely kind of aerobic foxtrot of running that we do. So yeah, I mean, I saw an opportunity because it's what I wanted. I was running at lunchtimes because it's what I needed to get out of the office, and I knew it made me feel good. And then, as we were saying, being evangelical, it was just, I genuinely wanted other people to realize that they could have that benefit too, and it could fit within a 45-minute window during lunchtime at work. And there's some great studies out there in terms of how you feel after you've run, how you can be more on it, you're more time efficient, you can deliver more for what you're doing in the office space. So yeah, I think part of it was trying to prove a point to other people that, you see me going for a run and you might take the mick, I'm wearing short shorts, but actually you could be wearing short shorts and we could all be having fun. So it was, yeah, maybe it started out really just trying to bring to life the evangelical thoughts I was having and whether we could actually get it off the ground. But yeah, that was getting on for 20 years ago now.
Yeah, I'd always thought you were kind of well ahead of your time. So this was probably 2005, maybe, in the ad agency that I used to work at when you came in, is people weren't talking about mental health in the same way as they are now. But yes, the idea of it was another culture: work hard, play hard, work too hard. I know, yes, aware of the awful stories that we all saw on LinkedIn last week. It's just that there's a way that it sounds counterintuitive, but taking some time off or finishing at 6 and doing a run will make your body of employees fitter, healthier, and happier. And actually, those ideas will be dislodging in their brains and coming out on their computer screens the next day. So, yeah, I think it's a really important thing. I've run all my life, and I've generally taken a Ben running club wherever I've gone, because I do think it makes a big difference to how we feel kind of day to day. Just going on to, I suppose, 8 weeks out now, the event, so the 5K in Regent's Park. Do you want to, Ben, just tell us a little bit more about what to expect? I know Shay and I have been chatting about that it's a very accessible event, a fun event. Just tell us a little bit about those that have signed up already, what to expect.
Yeah, well, I think we're very, very lucky to have a fantastic venue. So there'll be no roads to navigate. We're on the beautiful venue of Regent's Park. So that's having to get a license from the Royal Parks, which they don't give them out willy-nilly. And so that's a lovely thing to be in a fantastic park. The route itself is extremely flat. Like I said, it's free of traffic. It starts at the hub, which some people may know, which is a leisure facility put on by the Royal Parks, and it's also a cafe, a 360-degree panoramic view cafe, which is located very close to London Zoo. In fact, part of the course runs past the lion enclosure, and so you can often hear lions roaring as you go. It's yeah, it's the same course we have used for a few of our other. So we do a advertising industry 5K and we do a property industry 5K. And yeah, the route is just a really nice sound route. It's a quick route for guys who have maybe done a 5K before and are maybe looking for a PB. But equally, and maybe more importantly for the majority of our runners, it's just a really nice, relaxed, open course without super challenging hills. And so for those who might be looking to do a walk jog, it's absolutely perfect. We will have a tail walker runner with us, so you will never be on your own, and everyone will be kept together. And like it's just a lovely mix where it's a bit like the training groups we were talking about. Like to think it will encompass everyone within each company who has either a desire to try and run or already is running. And so yes, from beginners to fast runners, we'll get everyone together. And then they race, and then afterwards we'll have a lovely little get together. We'll have a little bar out on the area. It doesn't have to be alcoholic, but they will be selling alcoholic drinks as well as juices and flavored waters. And then yeah, normally there's just a really nice bit of chat. It's the endorphins are flowing, and then we will do a presentation afterwards just for the fun of the team competition, to see who is the speediest as a group around the course. And we'll also do some individuals. We will be hiring a marquee just in case of inclement weather. So there'll be a covered area. We have bag drop, we have changing rooms, so you can bring your kit. We've even got some lockers. So yeah, all secure. And just a really nice, fun, welcoming environment to do a 5K and be part of the inaugural legal 5K run.
Thank you very much. And we'll kind of, I think people are keen to get some insight in terms of training tips and that kind of thing. One of the things I think is great about 5K as a distance is quite accessible. And I think we talked before, didn't we, Shay, about how you can build up to that from a sort of relatively standing start. I don't know if you could just, we're about eight weeks out now, but when you stopped running and started again in the pandemic, or when you first picked up running, maybe just tell us a little bit about how you went from the metaphorical couch to running 5K and to running marathons as you do now.
Yeah, so what I love about the legal 5K is that the first conversation I had with James was about accessibility in terms of, James, are you just talking about speedy runners here? Because I could see there were prizes, and he said, absolutely not. This is about well-being. This is about people coming together, and it's for everybody. I love that about any running event. That just spoke volumes to me. But in terms of getting into running, the Couch to 5K program, which you can get on the NHS app, or you could do, a lot of running clubs also have them as well, is a fantastic place to start, because you start with walking and running intervals, and that really works very, very well. And that's how I started, 2 minutes running, 1 minute walking, and increasing that over time. So that's how I started. And until you can do a continuous 5K without stopping, and you move on and you build up. And it's just like marathon training programs, a 16-week training program. You start at a distance and you slowly build up to where you need to be for marathon day. So this is running is all about consistency. It's all about showing up. It's all about committing yourself. And these are all things that I think can transfer into our work as well. Running has showed me so many things that I apply in my own work. I even did a post on LinkedIn once after the Chicago Marathon saying everything I learned from running that applies to financial crime compliance. I'll have to dig it out. But about the preparation and training, the learning from it, there's so much that you can apply from running into your lives.
Thank you very much. Ali, what about any thoughts from you? Firstly, on training, obviously you're training for a slightly longer distance at the moment, I understand, in the shape of the Rotterdam Marathon, but also on kit. So the importance of decent running trainers. Running is very accessible. We were laughing that, of course, once you start, there's all sorts of gizmos that you can buy, but just the importance of the basics for those that maybe have got some old Dunlop green flashes from school that they need to probably leave in the cupboard.
Yeah, God, I mean, we want to try and be as inclusive as possible, but it probably wouldn't be a great idea to run in those.
Yeah.
On the training front, I think you can get as scientific as you want, but I think the main thing, whether you're training for a 5K for the first time or you're looking to qualify the Olympics for the marathon, it is that consistency and discipline, the ability to, set yourself the goals and execute on those. Obviously, it's not always possible to do what you set out to do. I'm currently in a marathon training block, and last week I definitely overdid it. I tried to stick too rigidly to my plan, and I hadn't had enough sleep, and I was a bit stressed and feeling a bit down from one of the many nursery viruses that were going around. And I did end up injuring myself slightly, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it's not too serious, but it is a reminder that you do also, in addition to that consistency and the discipline, you have to also listen to your body. You will learn when you're able to push, when you're not feeling so good. And I think sometimes it's okay to just go for a walk, or run slowly, or do run walk. And I think it's about setting yourself a realistic target, having the plan that's going to get you there, and not putting yourself under too much pressure. We're not elite athletes at the end of the day, and I need to remind myself that sometimes when I get a bit tunnel vision about trying to stick to the plan. If I don't do that workout, I'm not going to hit my goal at the marathon. So it does sometimes become all consuming. And every now and again, you're reminded by your body that you need to, zone out a little bit and maybe not go all in the whole time. But when it comes to product and apparel, obviously it's something I'm very passionate about. I work in this space and kind of understand all the latest technology and products and whatever else. And from ASICS as a company, in addition to the kind of the brand message about sound mind, sound body, another big aspect of our kind of company philosophy is guiding runners to their perfect shoe. So everybody has a different running style. Everyone has different weights, different body shapes, different sizes, different shaped feet. And fortunately at ASICS, we do have a very broad range of products. And before we kind of go and say, hey, you're fast, you should run in the Metaspeed, or, you should get this, we always recommend people to go to the ASICS store or go to a specialist running store and really get their running style and technique checked. Lots of runners pronate, which is when your ankles roll inwards, and those sort of runners typically need a bit more support. Other runners don't, and they can have a more neutral shoe. But the one thing that's consistent, whether you go for the fastest, most expensive carbon plate shoe in our range or more of an entry level shoe, is this, it's true whether you're doing 5 kilometers or a marathon, is comfort. You have to be comfortable in the shoes that you're wearing. If you're getting uncomfortable, they're too narrow, or they don't fit you properly, or they're not the right build for your feet, it won't allow you to get to that positive mental uplift place that we all talk about when you're running, because you'll be distracted by this pain that you're experiencing or chafing in your apparel. So we always say that comfort is king. We build a lot of our campaigns around the theme of comfort because we know it is so important to people. So I would say the two considerations would be make sure you're comfortable and the products fit you well, and also try, if you can, to get yourself not just to an ASICS store, it can be another store, but try and get your running gait analysed. And if you are going to be investing £100 plus in a pair of running shoes, it's worth making sure they're the right ones for you, I'd say.
Yeah, because it's important to say as well that shoes do run out, and they may look like they're new on the outside. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Ali, but it's usually about 400 or 500 miles, which may seem a lot, but if you've had shoes for a long time, you've just walked around a lot, you're not getting the support that you need.
No, I mean, it's convenient of us to say when we work for a shoe manufacturing brand, but shoe rotation is also quite important, probably more so the more serious you get and the more mileage you're doing. But trying to make sure that you're not wearing the same pair of shoes for every run. And if you have, even if it's just an extra pair of shoes that you can share the mileage with, it definitely helps kind of keeping your feet not always in exactly the same space and helping give that variety and building different muscles in the feet and ultimately helping prevent injury. But if you're starting from scratch, one pair is more than enough.
Actually, Ali reminded me of something. Running has lots of phrases and sayings, but a good one for the legal 5K to remember, guys: nothing new on race day. So try out all your stuff before, run in your shorts, try those sports bras if you're a woman, your shoes, make sure you've tested it all out and you're not going out for the first time in brand new kit.
Very wise, very wise. Great, and then we've got a few questions come through as well, but as a final question, you've touched on it a little bit. I loved the phrase you used, Shay, you know, your body talks back. But Ben, just tell us a little bit, I know you can get evangelical about these things, about how amazing the body is and how it can change even over 8 weeks, kind of the difference that you can see from just some consistent training. And again, some hints and tips. I think you have a few C's up your sleeve.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the evangelical bit comes from a lot of people when they are aware that their body has changed and adapted. And I think that's what, if you haven't done running before, it's almost it can seem a slightly strange concept to think you're going to train and somehow you're going to get better. And I think the human body, I mean, I just think it's utterly amazing. And I think it helps everyone, especially if you're starting out and you're running, to kind of think about the running and compare it to something that we think is equally amazing. So, you know, the combustion engine, I've often used as my little analogy. We'll go crazy about how amazing an engine is and how complex it is, and yet, you know, what we have created as human beings. And yet when you look at it, a combustion engine is nothing. Well, it's got nothing on us as human beings and our physiology. If you were to drive a 1.6 litre car up and down the M1 repeatedly for 8 weeks, keeping your consistency, maybe 3 or 4 times a week, and you did it and you got your routine going, at the end of your 8 weeks, you're going to still have a 1.6 litre combustion engine and nothing else. Yet if you applied that to your body has adaptive tendencies. It wants to respond to the stimuli you're giving it. And that's the amazing bit. So you could run, I think my recommendation, if you're new and you're listening to us now, would be maybe only 3 times a week. And just as Shay was talking about, it can be a walk run. And if that 8-week period has very gentle progression built in it, so maybe you're starting with 1 minute walking, 1 minute jogging, and then maybe we change it down to 45 seconds. The difference between you and a car is your body will change. So your 1.6 litre heart and cardiovascular system will adapt. I still find it utterly amazing that your heart as a pump will get bigger. So the muscle that is controlling how much blood it can pump around your body and distribute the oxygen, which is the energy, will get bigger. Your lungs become more efficient, how much air they can draw in, how much oxygen they can dissipate into your bloodstream. Your capillary network, you know, which is the unsung heroes of you feeling better in your running. They are you can't even see them, micro-sized little distributions of blood that will then take from your lungs to your muscle groups. You get more of them. So as you're doing your very gentle walk jogging over an 8-week period, and you're slightly doing less walking and a little bit more running, your body's responding because you're starting to take it to a point that it is slightly uncomfortable. Just as Shay was talking about, that point when then it warms up. And those are the prompts your body's looking for to adapt. And your heart will get bigger. Your lungs will become more efficient. Your capillary network will expand, which will then, within an 8-week period, maybe you were running for 5 minutes non-stop and finding that a kind of an optimum point, and you're finding that quite hard. By the end of 8 weeks, you'll be running for 20 to 30 minutes non-stop because your body has reacted to the cues you've given it. And that, I think, is just utterly amazing, especially when we look at technology and we look at adaptive processes in the modern world. You know, our body's been around for a few 100,000 years, and it's pretty clever. And I think all we've got to do is give it the right cues, and they don't have to be overly demanding cues. And I think Shay was talking about energy and being tired, and I think that's a big thing as well. You talk about running fitness. I always talk about one pot of energy, and you need to be aware you don't have I've got a working pot of energy, and then I've got my running pot of energy, and then I've got my home life looking after the kids pot of energy. You need to look at it holistic. You've got one pot of energy. And for me, running, if you do it gently and over time, it allows you to have more energy in that one pot. So as long as you're careful with it in the beginning and you use it really gently and you're conscious of the fact it's one pot of energy, if you're too tired from work, you're going to probably be a little bit too tired from exercise. And if you can just cut it a little bit to give yourself the time to run, to improve your fitness, your one pot will get bigger. And that for me is the amazing thing about the body. It will respond. So if you have faith and you can follow a plan, amazing things will happen. And I promise you that.
Very good. You heard it here. So we'll be checking for progress in 8 weeks' time. A few questions have come in. One we have here, thank you for the great insights. Love running, but struggle regular runs into my day, particularly in winter with less light. With work, family, and life, what are your tips for building regular running into your week? I don't know, Shay, do you want to?
So you really have to, in any plan or anything you're following, the first thing is to find out when actually you are free and be realistic about that. Don't plan your run on the day that you know actually you have to do the pickup and various things and you can't fit it in because you're already shooting yourself in the foot. So first step is really to find out where that window is. Maybe it's early on a Sunday morning when everybody's still asleep and you want to just try and get out and get back in by the time everybody's having breakfast. Find that window. It's really, really key to start. During the winter time, I do go in on a treadmill sometimes because it's just too dark and horrible and rainy. I think, was it last weekend that just on Saturday was absolutely pouring down and I had to do a run and I went to the gym treadmill. Obviously, I love running outdoors because the benefits you get from being out in nature, particularly if you can run in a really nice park, etc., far outweigh whatever you'll get on the treadmill. But just in terms of moving and it being cold and wet outdoors and ensuring I get a run in, I went onto the treadmill at the gym.
And
If you're happy to add in, James, if it's in work and you're looking to fit in, there are time efficient ways that you can do a shorter session that can have an almost equal benefit to going out for a long, steadier run or a steady run. So depending on your baseline, if you've already done some running and you're in a position where you're comfortable with pace, you can look at doing a shorter 15-20 minute window of training, which maybe encompasses changes in pace. So it would be slightly higher intensity, but for a short period. So you'd be surprised that a 10, 15, 20 minute higher intensity workout can actually have tangible benefits linking directly with whether you're doing a 10K or a half marathon, longer distances like that. Clear examples would be, I just call it a 30-second turnaround session. So you might do a little 5-10 minute warm up to an area you can run, and you will run then for 30 seconds at a higher tempo, depending on your confidence levels and where you're at. For some, it might be a sprint. You would run and you would mark your start point, and you're running harder for 30 seconds. You stop for 30 seconds recovery. You look for a tangible point to know where you have stopped. So you've got an A point where you started and a B point where you stopped. The challenge now after 30 seconds is to run back to the same point you started at within 30 seconds. Again, 30 seconds recovery, and then you're looking to run back. So you've got tangible points that you're aiming for as your goal points, because you're going to start to fatigue. And basically, you're trying to hit the same points. You could do 2 sets of 8, a little 5-minute cool down, and you've literally gift wrapped a little 15-minute session, higher intensity, that to me would be an equal benefit to a 30 or 40-minute steady state run.
Very good. Ali, any tips for fitting it all in? I think you mentioned young family. That's probably right up your street here.
Yeah, I think everyone has different preferences and schedules. For me, I found, yeah, I'm currently only working 4 days a week because I'm taking the Fridays off to look after my little one. So my Monday to Thursday at the moment is just, I would say 80% meetings. So to try and fit things in during the day, I found very challenging. Sometimes at lunch there was a little opening and I could go out then. Evenings are hard because I have to then work to catch up on the emails and the work. So I found evenings difficult, and yeah, once you kind of get back and you have to do bedtime routines and dinner and everything, it's that pot of energy that Ben was talking about is definitely in the red zone. So for me personally, I just built a routine of waking up an hour earlier in the morning, or however much earlier that I needed to. And it is quite difficult at first, and especially when it's dark and it's cold and it's wet. But I actually found, going back to the earlier theme of mental health and energy, I actually found, hard as it is, a bit like running, you got used to it after a while. And also that run in the morning energizes you for the rest of the day and gives you more focus and gives you more. So there's benefits when you run at the end of the day, you're kind of letting off the steam and the stress of the day. And I find when you run in the morning, you're building up that pot of energy for the rest of the day. So that was my trick. It might not work for everyone, but
I would also say just the obvious thing, but the seasonal, we're about to get extra light. So the clock change for runners is a magical moment, because all of a sudden you've got more light in the evenings, it's still getting lighter, and suddenly just it does open up options for how you feel about going for runs when you get home potentially, or after work.
Very good. Right, a couple of questions, a few questions, all basically around training effectiveness. So one of the things that's occurred to me is I'm going to throw in a question here, but I'm assuming there's quite a lot of standard training plans or good training plans. It might be good for us maybe to collect some of them. We can send those around or make them available on our website. But I'll ask you,
we've got
anything you recommend. Yeah, go on, Ben.
Oh no, so LGN, that's what we do. We've got some template training sessions I can provide. We've also got our little training philosophy, our 3C philosophy, which does begin with consistency. So yeah, I'll send those to you, James.
Yeah. Okay. I've got a question here about treadmill running. How does that compare with running outside for improvement? Anyone want to take that one on?
Yeah, happy to. I mean, obviously, I think the most important thing with running is, as we were saying, as Ali was saying, be comfortable, do what you enjoy. And I think for some people, treadmill running is a really effective way, especially in winter. You just need to be biomechanically, your body is working differently. So obviously the floor is moving and you're placing your feet on a moving environment. People can often find they will run quicker with less cardiovascular stress on a treadmill. You're not actually propelling your body, your mass, against a static surface of the earth. So yeah, we often recommend, it's a great place to start because it places less stress on soft tissue, ligaments, tendons. And maybe if you're confident, maybe think about putting it on a 5% incline, which will start to get your body used and your calves used to that element of pushing off a little bit. But yeah, the treadmill a bit easier, and it can definitely work, especially for beginners who are looking to get their body used to the movement and the biomechanical action of running.
Very good. And the one question here about speed. So a runner who's obviously run a few 5Ks. He or she said does about 25 minutes, so pretty respectable time. But it's keen to, are there any tips to help get faster? Any types of training that work for that?
Yeah, if you're happy for me to lead, I think
Mr. Training.
Yeah, primarily coming back to quicker, shorter work. So there's two ways of addressing it. You want to be running at a nice easy pace for longer than 25 minutes. So getting in 30-minute runs, 35-minute runs, if that can fit with your schedule. And then the other way is getting your body to run faster than it would be for that 25-minute 5K pace. So shorter work. Short hills, really dynamic hills can be great, and they can be short, 20 to 30 seconds. Finding a nice steep hill where you can get really dynamic arm and leg movement. Jog recovery, so you're starting to get out of breath. You're starting to feel a little bit lactic, and you start to replicate what you would be feeling in that 5K at around the 3K point. So quicker work, which is the interval work. So yeah, whether you're Paula Radcliffe, she would have been doing the similar thing. She'd be running over distance, so running a little bit further than that 5K time, and she'd be running shorter intervals at a quicker pace, of which some of those will be in the training plans that we can put up on the website. But yeah, basically gentle, slow over distance and really nice, short, compact sessions, which are going to be quicker.
And these nicely named fartlek sessions as well.
What are they, Shay? Tell us about the fartlek.
What Ben was explaining.
Fartlek is a great term, and Shay's completely right. They're essentially where you build into your run changes in pace. So fartlek is a Scandinavian term which means speed play, and it was brought around in the 1920s for the geeks amongst us when the Scandinavians were the kings of the fastest at the Olympics over 5K and 10K, and they were the first at pioneering this, and it works really well. So you could have a steady state run, and you might decide 10 times 30 seconds. During the run, you would run quicker, but then you have to come back and hold that same steady state pace you were running earlier. And again, it challenges your cardiovascular system. And just as we said, gives little prompts to the body where it thinks, oh, hang on, I haven't done this before. I'm feeling a little bit overworked. I might need to change and get bigger, more efficient and stuff like that. So yeah, Shay's absolutely right. Fartlek sessions are a great compliment.
And someone here loves running on the flattened pavements, but scared to try different types of run, like hills, speed, trail, etc. Despite this, a friend has signed me up to do a hilly trail 10K. What would be your best tips for tackling more hilly and challenging runs? Any other? Ali, have you got any hill thoughts?
Well, I live in Amsterdam, so I'm definitely not the best place to give advice on hills. But I did used to live in Crystal Palace, so I had some good terrain there. No, I mean, for sure, Ben is the expert on all things training, but I think it's a case of just take things easy. You don't have to sprint up there first time. You could do maybe run, walk, or just walk up it once and just get used to that feeling of going upwards. I know that hill training is a good shortcut to building quite strong cardiovascular fitness. It's not something that's in my my kind of toolbox living out here where everything is completely pancake flat. But no, I'll defer to Ben on this one from a training perspective.
No, you're quite right. I mean, I think, yeah, if the person in question has a hill near them, doing short 20-minute hill session will really, a lot of it is confidence, and just having the ability to work your calves a little bit more. Your calves are going to be working more than they would do on the flat. So some small sessions where a lot of it is just mentally getting confident. Maybe also think about joining a group or a club for some training runs that go off-road. So you're not alone and you can do it with a really nice, friendly group of people. Trail running, obviously the surface is uneven. You are going to be working some of your soft tissue, ligaments and tendons to support you. So you may find some of the smaller muscles in your lower legs, your calf and your feet are going to ache a little bit after your first few runs on a trail, but they quickly develop. So maybe incorporating, if you have it, of a 20-minute or 30-minute run, 5-10 minutes where you're going to be on an uneven surface, just to start to feed it in and teach your muscles to start firing and supporting the ankles. That would be a great thing. But yeah, respect to your friend for signing you up. I like that.
Yeah.
And it's just a completely different way to run, isn't it? Because you're just more careful. You're looking at where the placement of your feet, so much more. Also, depending on where you are and the terrain, you may need to think of shoes, because there's sometimes what you're wearing on your feet will be really important on certain kind of surfaces, because trail shoes do have, and Ali knows all about that, all the protection you need that is different from road running.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, trail running shoes are a lot more robust. They have a lot more, the outsole is so much more grippy. I think it depends on, there's different levels of intensity when it comes to trails. There's obviously running in extreme kind of mountains with rocks and lots of obstacles where you do need a high quality pair of trail shoes that can really protect your feet from stones piercing through the sole of the shoe. But if it's kind of more gentle forest trails, then as long as it's not been raining, then often road running shoes are more than adequate. So it just depends on the type of trail that you're going to be running on.
And then just two more questions, then we wrap up. The first one is a double question. What's the importance of stretching and any tips for avoiding injury? The first double question. Go on, Ben.
Me to take it. Yeah, well, it's a pretty hot topic actually, in terms of scientific studies. But talking from my own experience, stretching is important. It's a nice way of bookending your run. It kind of allows to give you a little 5 minutes to decompress afterwards and just calm down and enjoy the emotion. But yeah, major muscles, obviously, in terms of how they propel you forward, a muscle shortens and then lengthens to pull levers in your body, your bones, to change your biomechanics to move you forward. Over time, those muscles can get shorter. So overworked, tired muscle can be shorter, which then can lead to the risk of injury. So where the tendinous parts, that's the bits of the muscle where are attached to the bone, you can get very small microcellular little tiny tears, which can be the achy bits. So really gentle stretching. I mean, I think for me, the big thing with stretching is not to overstretch, not to stretch aggressively. And maybe if you're starting fresh, just start focusing on the major muscle groups. So we use this funky term called kinetic chain. Everything in your body is linked, but primarily the bigger the muscle group, the more quite literal pull they're going to have on the other muscles around them. So your big muscles are your bum, or your glutes, if you want to use the fancy term, your hamstrings, which are the muscles on the back of your leg, and then your quads on the front. And I'd probably say the hip flexors. If you're doing a lot of sitting, office-based work, your hip flexors are going to be in a shortened position. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of really nice videos on YouTube, very easy, how to stretch your bum, hamstrings, quads, and I'd say your hip flexors. And yeah, for me, anecdotally, I always feel better when I've done some gentle stretching, and I feel it does help reduce the risk, and it mitigates some of the risk of injury if you have managed to get a little bit of length back into your muscles, preparing you for your next run.
And injury avoidance, I suppose stretching is a key part of that. But any other?
Yeah, I mean, running is great in that essentially the build up and the start of your run tends to act as a dynamic warm up most of the times. Unlike football or hockey or netball, where when the whistle blows, suddenly you might be doing an explosive movement. A training run in itself can be built up really gently. Essentially, you've got your body's got its own equivalent of WD-40, synovial fluid, in the joints, which helps your joints move, but you need movement to get it flowing. And so I would start every run with maybe a 1 to 2 minute walk, even those people who are confident non-stop runners. And then you would build up the pace really gently, and that Shane works for your upper body. So the nice thing about running and the accessibility that Shay was talking about is that, you know, things like warm-ups are essentially built into what a run is. Just do it really gradually. And you just need to be more careful. If you are doing more dynamic sessions, like we talked about, the sprints, the hills, the turnarounds, then I'd always advise doing a progressive stride, I call them strides, sprints beforehand, 3 or 4, where you work through what we call gears. Try and find the subtle changes in pace. First gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear, fifth gear, maybe only for 20 seconds. And again, you're just preparing your body for the more explosive movement you're going to be doing when you do your hills or your turnaround. So yeah, just very gently waking the body up and preparing it, giving it the cues for about, you know.
Oh, the Cornwall Wi-Fi's dropped.
I would probably add a word about rest and recovery in terms of avoiding injury.
Yeah.
It's really, really important because we're always talking about running, but the rest part is extremely important, particularly if you're doing a lot of running or probably training for an event. So just remember to put that into your running schedule as well.
Yeah, because it can be tempting when you find the love of running to overdo it. I think you were mentioning maybe it's less the love and more the pressure of running a marathon, but this pressure of, yeah, knowing when to rest. I think you were touching on that before, weren't you, Ali?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Other thing I found as well personally is the importance of core. So when I've got injured before, it's actually because my body was slightly wonky, and you know, just some simple stretches, but maybe doing some planks or that kind of thing. Just making sure your core is strong will make a big difference, because essentially there's kind of less stress going throughout your system. So there we are. And then final questions, which I will answer, because I think Ben's Wi-Fi has disappeared, is logistics. So we've got 45 plus at the moment, either firms or chambers or associated in companies to do with the legal sector entered, which is amazing. So really excited about that. For those who haven't had an email yet, you could just drop us a line. There's a really simple sign up link, and what that allows you to do is enter a number of runners up to you. Our largest team, I think, is over 30. We'll let you know who that is close to the time. But you can just enter a number, and then you can sort out who's going to exactly who the runners are going to be nearer the time. You don't have to enter everyone's names now. So we've made it as easy as possible. The other thing to mention is the logistics on the day. So it's going to start at 6 o'clock. We'll send out an email beforehand, obviously a couple of weeks beforehand, with more information, but there will be a Ben style warm up beforehand, so everyone's limbered up nice and ready, and there'll be a bit of drinks and a way of mingling at the end of the run also. But apart from that, I think that is everything. Maybe the other question is the team competition. So I said it's just an accessible, fun run. You probably find it a little bit, if any of you have ever done a park run, that kind of, you know, full of people just enjoying themselves, doing the runs for themselves. We've added a little bit of a competitive element in. There's going to be the fastest 3 men and fastest 3 women from any firm or chambers will count towards a team prize. So that's the prize that Ben mentioned at the start. But apart from that, unless we have any other questions, I think we've got them all. I just want to say, yeah, thank you, Ali and Shay, for your time and for joining, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in April. Yeah, thank you all for listening, and drop us an email if you have any further questions, and we'll make sure the training programs and all the information is accessible after the webinar. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, Ali. Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks, Shay.
Bye.